my statement. There are some people who have been brought up in Sierra Leone and don't know about Ahmadiyyat.
No, I've been hearing about it, but to be frank enough,
you had heard of it,
yes,
you knew
Ahmadiyya,
but you didn't know much about it.
Yeah.
Is that what you said? Yes, fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
You see?
Okay.
So I don't know what it really means, the name Ahmadiyya.
Okay. You want to know?
Yeah. And why is it separated from Islamia?
I will explain.
And the third thing, when they are all speaking the same language, that is, Muhammad, in whom be peace and blessings of God, is a messenger to the one God.
They speak the same language, but not only that language, but other languages as well.
Yeah, I hope you...
It is a case of the truth, but not the whole truth.
Okay.
And not a case of nothing but the truth. If they were speaking the same language, all of them, why should there be 72 sects in Islam? And warring sects for that matter. Have you forgotten the strife between Iraq and Iran, which took place only a few years ago? There was a drawn-out war between Iran and Iraq, and both claimed that they were the Muslim Mujahideen, that is, fighting the holy war against the infidels. According to the Sunni forces of Iraq, Shias of Iran were infidels. They had nothing to do with Islam. So it was pure jihad, the holy war, the Iraqis declared, which was launched against infidels of Iran who claimed themselves to be Muslims. And when a Shia was killed in battle, there was shouts of Allahu Akbar, one infidel less. And the same, exactly the same was happening on the other side of the borders. When Iranians killed an Iraqi, they shouted Allahu Akbar, one infidel less. And, one very less type of slogan. And they all said and claimed and repeatedly mentioned it on television, in newspapers, etc., that ours is the war of Islam and theirs is the war of denial of Islam. So whoever dies on our side is a martyr, he will go straight to heaven. Whoever dies on their side will be hellbound. I doubt if you consider that to be the same language spoken of course, but from different sides. If one is right, the other could not be right. So this is what has become of Islam and what we believe, and this is in short the introduction of Ahmadiyyat to those who do not know much about Ahmadiyyat. The founder of Ahmadiyyat, Hadhrat Mirza Ahmed of Qadian, made one claim which also covered in fact two claims. He claimed to be that promised reformer which was awaited not only by Muslims but also by Christians. And what was the name of the reformer awaited by Christians? That was Jesus, Messiah. Jesus, son of Mary, the Messiah, was awaited by the Christians to pay a second visit to the earth. And the Muslims were awaiting Al-Mahdi, the guided one, the leader who would be appointed by Allah. But in Islam, these two titles got together. In Christianity, they were awaiting only for one person, that is Messiah. But in Islam, they were awaiting for both, because Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had prophesied that Christ would appear this time among Islam, among Muslims. And as such, it would be a Muslim Christ who would appear during the latter days. So the claim of Hazrat Mirza Sahib was that two different people don't come to the world from same God. What happens is, it is the same person who represents God who is mentioned under different titles. So don't confuse yourself by imagining that there would be one Imam Mahdi born among the Muslims who would claim to be from God, and there would be another by the name of Jesus Christ, born among early Christians, in Judaism, in the Jews, paying a second visit to the earth. He said no such thing happens in religious history. Search far and wide, you may hear of people promising, or people being promised, then that an old founder of religion or reformer would again come. But it never happens like that. Somebody does come, the promise is not false, but he only comes in the image of the previous one. So only like that the promise is fulfilled. So don't take those messages too literally. Having argued that, he also gave historical examples in his support. He said, you are awaiting Jesus Christ to come personally, bodily, yet again, because he promised he would come. But you forget his own verdict passed against such little understanding of the scriptures. What was that verdict? He pointed out that even before Jesus Christ, it was mentioned that Elijah, or Elia is also mentioned, he would descend bodily from the heaven. Every Jew knew that by heart. Every Jew remembered that this would be the sign appearing before Jesus Christ would come. So, Elijah will descend bodily from heaven, and then he will announce to the world that the time of Jesus Christ is near at hand, so open up the locks of your hearts, be ready to accept. Now what happened? Jesus did appear, but without that literal Elijah descending from heaven. So people used to mock and taunt the followers of Jesus Christ, asking them, okay, he could be right, of course, but please produce Elijah from the heaven first. Or do you deny scriptures? Do you say the scriptures were false? Of course they could not deny scriptures. Now this question was raised in the presence of Jesus Christ, and he answered this question. I don't know the exact words, but I'll tell you the effect. He said, John the Baptist is the same Elijah who was to descend from heaven, accept it or not, but he has come. Now Hadhrat Mirza Sahib pointed out, both to the Christians and the Muslims, that would you agree with Jesus' verdict or not? People are expected to come bodily from heaven as clearly as Elijah was. And yet somebody in their name, in their character comes, and those who follow the literal meaning over much, they are disappointed. They don't recognize such a person. They continue to reject. So he said, it's up to you. Having explained this situation, he said, I am the same Jesus descended from heaven exactly as Elijah descended from heaven before Jesus Christ. And for that, with that explanation, you don't have to expect two separate persons appearing. One one the old Jesus and one Imam Mahdi. He said in the case of Islam, the reform which was promised was to be one person with two titles. One title was Al-Imam al-Mahdi, the guided leader appointed by God in Islam. The other was the promised Messiah, the Christ, who was promised both to the people of Christianity and the people of Islam. So this was his explanation of how things would come to pass. Now he came and he was rejected by a large number of Muslims, of course, as you know very well. But what happened? How did God treat him and his followers? This is the issue which is still alive, which requires your particular attention. Because if I quote just history to you, you may be in doubt about the authenticity of our records of history. But what you see before your